Hello, I'm Chef Amaury, and welcome to my kitchen. I'm in Chicago. I'm in the famous Fulton Market area. So we are here to actually demonstrate to you how to make a risotto, very basic risotto, and I'm going to show you how to actually turn it around and do different things with the risotto. We're going to make a basic one, and right next to me I have my sous chef for today. This is Steven. He comes to us from Colorado Springs, Colorado, and he's visiting us. So say hi.
Hi, everybody.
He's going into his senior year of high school, so he's very much your age, and some others maybe a little younger. But anyway, so welcome to my kitchen, and I'm going to start off with telling you about risotto. Risotto comes to us from it's Italian, and it's from the northern part of Italy. So that being said, it's something that you find in some restaurants, and it's basically comfort food. I kind of liken it to almost like a mac and cheese, like Italian mac and cheese, but it's not really mac and cheese, it's rice, and they use a Parmigiano Reggiano. So we are going to use a Parmigiano Reggiano for our risotto, and we're going to use chicken stock, and I'm going to go over chicken stock and a little bit of wine, and but we're going to start in a few minutes. As you can see, I'm about to saute some of these some zucchini that I chopped up. And I'm gonna saute it really quick. I'm using a blue carbon steel pan that I love quite a bit, that I use for almost everything. But I'm gonna get this up at a really high temperature and saute it for a couple of minutes until it gets nicely light brown, and put it on the side. I don't wanna saute it and then add the rice and add everything to it, because then it's gonna get too soggy, and I don't want the zucchini to be soggy. So I'm gonna add this zucchini towards the very end of our risotto after it's finished. I'm just going to fold it in there. Pan is smoking, so I'm going to start to saute my zucchini. And I want to lightly salt it and lightly brown it. Because I'm going to add this, like I said earlier, I'm going to add this to our risotto later on, but I'm going to let it go for a little bit. I'm going to let it sit for a little bit so it's nice and hot. I'm going to let it sit and then let it brown a little bit on one side, and then I'm going to let it go. See, it's nice and light brown. So I'm going to pull it out because I don't want it to get soggy. I'm going to give it a few more seconds. You see, it's nice and light brown, and then that's it. I'm going to use, to make the risotto, I'm going to use this a blue carbon steel that I love to use. I just love this pan. You can use a non-stick. You can use something that you feel comfortable with, but make sure that you don't overcook it, right? And you keep the temperature somewhat moderate. So I'm going to keep it, because I'm using this steel here. I'm going to have it a medium to medium low, because carbon steel actually does retain temperature, and it gets really hot. So I'm going to be really careful because I don't want it to burn. And I'm trying to sweat. So the first thing I'm gonna do is sweat onions and a little bit of garlic. And in Italian, they call that a sofrito, or you're sweating the sofrito. And all cultures have their own sofrito. And this is one type of sofrito when you mince the onions. So we have approximately about a cup of onions here. So now wait till this gets a little bit hot. And I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil in here and a little bit of butter, okay? And just enough to cover it. And we're gonna start this off. You hear the sizzle there? I love the sound of a sizzle in the oven. In the kitchen. Anyway, I love the sound. Now when you cook, right, you should also season when you go. So I'm gonna add a little bit. I added olive oil to there earlier, but I'm gonna add a little more olive oil. But I'm also gonna add a little bit of butter. Not a lot, because I like to use a combination of olive oil and butter when I cook. Now we're sweating this, okay? So we don't want it to really turn color. So we're gonna be careful that we just sweat it. Now, the reason why I didn't add the garlic yet, because if you add garlic too soon, it starts to burn. So, but I'm gonna add the garlic in a few minutes. I'm gonna reduce this a little bit. You can see it's starting to give out some of its liquid, and that's what you want. You can smell it. You can start smelling it. It's becoming translucent, which basically means clear. Okay. So you're gonna wait till it comes somewhat clear. And then I'm gonna add my garlic. Now I added like about a good 4 cloves of garlic, and I sliced them really thin. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and add the garlic now. The temperature is nice and moderate at this point. And I'm gonna season a little bit. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of salt, because you should always season as you go. Just a little bit, not too much. Season as you go. Now you need to be careful with seasoning. The reason for that because the very last step that you're gonna add your cheese, your Parmigiano Reggiano, and when you have the Parmigiano Reggiano, it could be salty. So if you add too much salt ahead of time, then you add the cheese, you could ruin your dish. So it's just good to season this a very little bit and wait until after you put the cheese to have actually finalize your final your final salt or your final seasoning. So at this point, I'm gonna add my rice. Okay. So I got 2 cups of rice. Now what kind of rice did I use? I used some Culinary. I can't say it, but Carnaroli rice. Now you can use arborio or any type of sushi rice if you wanted to. But basically you want something that's gonna give off the starch, that's gonna give off more starch, because you get your creaminess from the risotto from the rice, not from the butter, even though butter and everything. But I'm gonna go ahead and add the rice to the pan.
So Chef, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So what if you use like regular white rice or brown rice instead of using like a medium grain rice? What would happen?
Okay, if you use a brown rice is not going to cook properly. That's a good question, because obviously brown rice is healthier for you and it's good for you, but it doesn't give off the starch that you need.
Okay.
To make this. Okay, you need the starches. You want the starches to come out, and you're going to see as we cook this. I'm going to season it again, right? A little bit of salt. I'm also going to add a little bit of butter to this. Okay. And we're going to coat the rice with a little bit of the, we're going to kind of toast it. See, I'm trying to make sure that I coat all the rice with some of that butter and the oil, and try to coat that before I add my wine. Now, add a little bit of salt to this already. So now I'm going to add the wine. Thank you so much, Stephen. And I'm going to add the wine to this. This is white wine. I use a little Sauv Blanc. It's about a cup. It's about a cup here. So we're going to slowly put the rice. Okay. Now this is the tricky part. Okay. We're going to wait. We're going to wait until the water. Until the wine actually soaks in before you add more liquid, okay? So you want it to absorb. You want the water to absorb into the rice. So I'm gonna wait. You see that's still kind of wet there? So you still have a little time. You can smell, you can start smell. Can you smell that already?
Yes.
You can start smelling that already. You can smell just the garlic and onion. Simple, right?
So I have another question, Chef.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if we add too much wine to the rice? What would happen?
Oh, that's another good question. If you add too much rice, actually, you can't really add too much rice to it because it's just going to absorb into it. But what happens if you add too much is that it's going to affect the flavor of it, okay, right? It'll be too much of a wine rice. It might be fine, right? The other thing people might want to ask me is that, Chef, could you use anything other than wine? Because I'm pretty sure some of you out there, I'm going to probably say, are going to probably have that. They're probably thinking, my parents are not going to let me use wine, right? So you can use grape juice. You can use some white wine vinegar. maybe a combination of white wine vinegar and a little bit of white grape juice will work, right? So these are two things you can use. So I'm gonna start layering this chicken stock in here. Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh. Now see, it's starting to absorb. Now, basically what I'm gonna do, now there's the part that takes a little time that you have to start, make sure you don't have the temperature too high. But this is the part that's really cool, right? Because what you're doing now is that I'm gonna keep ladling this chicken stock that I put saffron in. Now I add saffron to this. And so I'm gonna keep ladling in the chicken stock into the rice until it absorbs just like I did with the wine.
Okay.
So I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm gonna keep stirring it and see if it's absorbing. And what's gonna happen is that I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm gonna keep doing that until, until it doesn't want to absorb anymore.
Okay.
Which means it gets plump, right?
Okay.
And it doesn't want to take in any more liquid. So then that's when it's ready. You have to taste it because you want to cook it till it's al dente, right?
Yes.
It's called al dente, and I'll explain that to you in a little bit. But see, it absorbed, right? It's
Yes.
somewhat absorbed. So guess what we're gonna do?
Add more stock.
We're gonna add more stock to it. And that's it. You got it. And I'm actually gonna put this here. Now I'm using hot stock, right, to do this. And what I did with the stock, there's something that you probably want to know is like, so people are probably asking, I want to know what is stock. Basically, stock is basically, I use chicken stock, and basically chicken stock is simmering chicken bones, or it could be beef bones, it could be fish bones, with a little bit of mirepoix, which is the French word for 1 part carrot, 1 part celery, 2 parts onion. And for this, for what I made today, what I did, so you know, is that I made a stock earlier, and for the stock I used some chicken that I bought several days ago. I bought some chicken from a local place, like an actual rotisserie chicken. And the rotisserie chicken, I put out the meat from the bones, ate the chicken, and actually I saved some of the meat for this. I'm gonna add some of this later on. But I actually grabbed those bones that I would have thrown out anyway, added the actual mirepoix, with a little bit of like a sprig of thyme, a sprig of parsley, some parsley, thyme, and some peppercorns. And then I put that into a pressure cooker for about 1.5 hours, with about 2 quarts of water. And I used 2 chicken carcasses for that, or bones. Now see, it's starting to absorb, it's starting to get plump, it's plumping up, right? Look at that. Could you smell that yet?
Yes.
See, it's starting to plump up more and more, right?
Yes.
It's going to take up most of this liquid, and you're going to see that. So I'm going to add more. So this is the key to making a good risotto. It takes time and patience. Some chefs, can you just add a bunch of liquid and just stir it? Yes, you can, and some people do it that way. But the proper method, obviously, to have more control over this is to actually, because if you put too much liquid in it, it might overcook, and you want it to be al dente, which is basically, to the tooth. You don't want it to be mushy and soft. You want it to be able to taste each individual grain. Make sense? So you see, it's starting to absorb more and more, but it's still going to take. You can see it's hard still. It's still going to take a lot more liquid. We're going to actually go through most of this liquid here, most of that stock that's in there. Okay. Oh, that smells so good. And add a little bit more salt. Just a little bit. Again, I'm after this, I'm going to be careful with the salt because I can sauce it later on after I add the cheese, right, and the butter at the very end. Let's see. Oh, look at that. Smell that risotto. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
So I have another question for you, Chef.
Mm-hmm.
When's like the right time to add the butter? Is it like the beginning, the middle, or like towards the end?
That's a great question. Okay, we're gonna add the butter towards the end, obviously, because I want it to remain creamy. If we add the butter too soon, it'll start to separate, it'll start to break, and it gets really greasy, right? The oil starts separating, and it looks kind of weird, right? So we're gonna add the butter and the cheese at the very end. Okay. And we're gonna use Parmigiano Reggiano. and I'll explain that to you in a short while. But Parmigiano Reggiano is Italian. It is a cheese that's from Italy. It's gonna it could be pricey. It's gonna run anywhere between $18 to $27 a pound. But I think there's no substitute for it. I think that's one of the best cheeses in the world. I love Reggiano, especially aged. This is aged 24 months. I love this cheese. Now, someone's gonna ask me, could you use other cheese? Yes, you can. Would it be a traditional risotto? No. But we're in America, right? We can break the rules here, right? So if you want to use cheddar or some other cheese, you want to put at the end to make it your thing, or another exotic cheese, go for it. Why not, right? It's like we don't have to be traditional. We're not in Rome. We're not in Italy, right? So you don't have to. I like traditional risotto. I love the flavor of Parmigiano Reggiano, so that's why I use it. But you don't necessarily have to use that.
So I have another question for you, Chef.
Okay.
So instead of, like, let's say you can't get a hold of like this certain type of rice that we're using tonight, what's another rice that you could also use?
You could try to use like a medium grain rice,
Okay.
Or sushi rice.
Okay.
Those are good. You don't want to use long grain rice because it doesn't give off that much starch.
Okay.
Okay, and that's what you have to be careful with that. If you want the starch, the creaminess comes from the starch.
Okay.
So you want a rice that's going to give off starch and make it creamy. The other thing I wanted to say is that someone's going to ask me. I know that's the question I'm going to have. Is this vegan? No, it isn't vegan. But can you make it vegan? Yes, you can. What you'll do is that you will use the butter, obviously, right? You will use the oil, and use the same technique I just showed you earlier. You sweat the vegetables and like the onion and the garlic in the oil, which is the olive oil that I used, and you sweat that, and you do the same method. And instead of using chicken stock, you use vegetable stock, right? And you use the same technique, and you make it creamy, right? The difference is that if you want to make it cheesy, okay, there's a way to do that. Now, there's a product that I use. Want to get that from me? That product from me? Yes, get that from me, please. And you can finish it instead of Parmesan cheese. There's something I've been using because I've been experimenting with doing some vegan things. So there's something called Nutritional Yeast that you can get. You can get this at actual Whole Foods, which is pretty cool. Nutritional Yeast has that flavor, almost like that boxed, Parmesan cheese from Kraft almost. But it still gives you that flavor, like a somewhat cheesy flavor. So you can cheat, add a little bit of this at the very end, and it'll make it creamy, somewhat creamy, because remember, you're getting creaminess from the rice for the most part, and that's how you make it vegan if you wanted to. Okay, so that answers that. Now you can see that it's starting to plump up more and more. As it plumps up, that's telling you that it's almost ready.
So, Chef, what other things can go with risotto?
That's another good question. We're going to actually add some things to this later on, and I'm going to show that to you in a little bit. But this is a basic risotto. And usually a risotto is served as a first course a lot of times. But you can make this to a meal, which is what we're going to do today. Okay, we're going to make it in the meal. Okay. We're going to add to this, we have some mushrooms. We're going to add to this later on. We have some morels. Isn't that cool? Got morel mushrooms that we cooked off earlier. So we're going to add the mushrooms at the very end. Okay. We're going to add a little bit of zucchini that I sauteed earlier to that at the very end. And we're going to top it off. You can top it off with any kind of meat you want. Okay. We're going to make some scallops a little bit later, so we're going to top it off with maybe some scallops. Add some chicken from what I said from what I pulled from before. Okay. So we need some of that chicken that I pulled that we made with that. And we're also going to, so you can basically use any kind of meat that you want to top it off with. Add at the very end. A good thing to add to this is shrimp. I don't use shrimp too much anymore because my wife is actually allergic to it, so I love shrimp, and there's nothing better than actually browning some shrimp and sauteing some shrimp, nice and brown, and then you put it on top of that at the very end. Risotto and to me and shrimp is delicious. Okay. My favorite things. See, it's starting to take. Now the question you're going to ask me earlier about the question about the doneness.
Oh yes. How do you know when it's going to be completely ready? Especially when you're talking about like the liquid and stuff. Like, what's the right amount of liquid to be left in there?
Now, you're noticing that it's starting not to take as much of the liquid. It's slowing down, right? So after 1 or 2 laters, I'm guessing it's going to be done. But what I'm looking for is that I'm looking for flavors. So basically, I'm looking the number one telltale sign telltale sign for me to know when it's done. When it's about to be done is that when it stops taking liquid. Okay, it'll start giving up. It's not gonna absorb anymore. So you can see it's starting to do that. It hasn't done it completely, but it's starting to do that. Okay, it's getting to that point. And you can see the grains. See the grains are still separate from each other. You see, you're looking for that as well. Okay, because you don't want it to get mushy. Like I said, you want to keep stirring this and stirring this, and you can see it's starting to plump up. It's starting to gain more size, right?
Yes.
It's still taking liquid, so it's still not done yet, but it's almost done. Time-wise, I hate to tell people, actually, in my restaurant, people used to ask, my chefs used to, my cooks used to ask me, when is it done? And I used to tell them when it's done. They asked me for the time. I said, whenever it's ready, when it's done. Okay, because you have to test it, you have to taste it and test it, and then we're gonna do that. Okay, and that's when we're gonna know it's done. Now, the thing about risotto is that when you make risotto, okay, you have to make it to a point, and then you have to serve it, because it's not one of these risotto ones things that you have to serve hot.
Okay.
So in a few minutes, I can see it's almost done, and I'm gonna slow this thing down a little bit. But in a few minutes, I'm gonna start to saute the actual. I'm gonna start to sear off the extra sea scallops.
Okay.
Okay, so they'll be ready on time with that. Okay, but this is almost done. I'm gonna taste it in a few minutes. So in the meantime, I already seasoned out some sea scallops. I'm gonna use a little bit of avocado oil because it has a high smoke point. I could use grapeseed oil if I wanted to too, but I just have this handy, so I'm gonna use this. See how beautiful that is?
How do you know when the scallops are ready?
When you're ready. No, just kidding. You basically, you don't want to overcook scallops. The worst thing in the world to do is overcook scallops. So basically, I cook them for only a couple of minutes. It's a thing that, from experience, that I touch it and feel it.
Okay.
But I look at it to see, make sure that that's not totally, that's still like translucent. Okay, I look for liquid translucency. It's still translucent. It's nice and brown. So it's almost. These are almost done, by the way. It's almost done. I'm gonna put a little bit of butter in this pot. Do me a favor and give me a plate, okay, and I can see that I've absorbed most of the liquid. It's just about done. So what I'm going to do now is get another spoon, get a clean spoon there, get two more. I'm going to taste it again. I'm going to taste it for doneness. Grab one. And this should be just about right. Should be done. You can see it's plump. Perfect. See the grains? Now to finish it, I mentioned earlier that I made some zucchini. I'm gonna put some zucchini in there. You can add any vegetables. You can add roasted red pepper you wanted to, eggplant. I just had the zucchini that I had, so I had a little zucchini to that. Had a little flavor. And this is turned off already, right? So it's got a little zucchini. You can add more to that if you want. But my main thing I want to add is my cheese. Now, you can add as much cheese as you want, make it as cheesy as you want. I want to add approximately like about a good cup or so. I don't want it to make it too cheesy because I want to taste the rice, I want to taste the whole thing, but you can make it as cheesy as you want, okay? So actually, I'm gonna add the butter first and then the cheese, okay? How much butter? I'm gonna add about a good 3-4 tablespoons of butter for the most part, at the most. Again, I want it to be add that butterness there, but I turned it off already because I want to have like the residual heat to melt it.
Okay. So if you add, so is like the butter like preference wise, like how much you want to add to it? Or
It is a preference wise because some people want, I mean, you don't want to over butter it, obviously.
Okay.
You want it to be nice and buttery. You don't want to over butter, but you can see how nice and creamy it is right now. That butter. Okay. We're gonna add our cheese to this. And we have about a good cup or a little more than a cup in here, which is a lot. We have 2 cups in here. And we're gonna taste it. I'm gonna fold it in now. Man, look at that. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And guess what we have? We have our risotto. Now we're going to do a random taste test. Taste that now.
Really smooth.
I'm so happy. It's coming really good. Okay. There you have it. A risotto. We're going to add a little bit of scraps to it and some meat to it, but that's it. Thank you so much for joining us today, and hope you try this. If you have any questions for me, you can reach me at actually my Facebook page is Chef Amaury's Epic Culinary Fair, or my Instagram is Chef Amaury Chicago. Chef Amaury Chicago is Instagram, or Chef Amaury's Epic Culinary Fair on Facebook. So, any questions? Just shoot me a message on Facebook or on Instagram, and please share the video with everyone. Spread it out, and if any question, want me to do anything else, just let me know and just write me. Take care, and great doing this for you, and enjoy. Thank you.